What's up, everyone? I'm Nathan, solo developer of many Meta Quest games. My most popular one is Invictus, Men of Iron. It has 2,500 users playing per month, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to get started in virtual reality Meta Quest and Android development. I don't want to take up too much of your time because it's a very convoluted subject. So let's just get right into the subject. Here's my game. 2,500 users active. This is Meta's backend. You'll definitely get into this once you get up and running. But to do that, you'll need to start developing. And to start developing, if you clicked on this, it's probably for Unity. So go ahead, download the Unity Hub from unity.com. You're going to need the Unity Hub first, and from there, go to Installs and click Install Editor and install the latest one. I have 6.0. What you want, the trick here is downloading an Android build. Make sure you include the Android module. We're going to try and get through this as quick as possible. If you want to just go back over things, go ahead and do so. I'm just going to rifle right through it because there is a lot to go through. So go ahead, download your editor. Here's all your projects on this side. In the project section, you can add from the disk or from GitHub repository. Go ahead and click new project. Here you have templates. Unity, it renders graphics. Games are rendered through different pipelines. Those are the code that makes up what you see. The built-in one doesn't require a lot of CPU, GPU graphics handling. It's called the core pipeline. The one that has a little bit more sheen to it is called URP pipeline, okay? And that's what I use. So there's SRP, which is a standard built-in URP, a little bit more pretty, and then HDRP, which we don't even have to worry about because MetaQuest can't handle it. So we'll just focus on core and URP. It's probably best to start with core because it's the least graphics intensive, and you want high FPS. So less graphics intensive, higher FPS equals no motion sickness, and that's our goal. Okay, so go ahead, cloud download a VR core project, call it what you would like, the name of your game, test whatever you'd like, and it'll open up this sample package. Boom. Welcome to the VR template. This provides a pre-configured project with VR packages and components in it. So this what you've downloaded here, this template has your VR setup already there. Okay. If we open this up, it has a camera. It has different the VR system. Locomotion is the movement system. Hand smoothing position. Post-processor, that we don't need to know about. That is some backend. We'll get into that later if we need to. But the big thing we need to know about is the fact that we have the stuff in our scene. If we click the drop down, and we're practically set up to go from here. Now if you're completely new, we have the hierarchy on the left. The scene shows us what's in our game. If we right click and move the mouse around in the view and use AWSD, you can move around. Q and E, move up and down. So simple navigation in your scene, okay? Up here we have game. This is what your camera sees, which is your VR view. Okay, and you can see that from up above. We have a little camera in there. There wasn't so many icons. If you want to change the size of the icons, you can open up, double click the scene view, and on the right here, the little sphere, circle, click the drop down, and you can adjust the size of the 3D icons there. That's a useful little tip. So game, view, scene. So if we click something in the scene, it highlights in the hierarchy, which is the stuff that's in our scene, and it shows us some information in the inspector. The inspector is what shows us what is on the object. So we have a mesh renderer, which shows us the skin. It shows us the material. The material is what we see here. So this is a blue material. You see how this is a material? It's the skin of the object that we see. The sphere here is the shape. Now don't get this confused with a collider. Now, just because our object is in the scene doesn't mean that it has gravity or a player can touch it. We have to implement all these things into our scene. So to make it a hard object, we have to add a collider. We have different shapes of colliders. You can click add component and add a collider. We have a rigid body. This is something that adds gravity to our object. Okay, so these objects over here will all have a collider and a rigid body to make it a physical object in the scene and make it a realistic object in the scene. Unity has a built-in calculated gravity system that's one-to-one with the world's gravity. They try and make it as realistic as possible through calculations in mathematics, which is great for making as real as the game as possible. Right, so this is the intro scene. You have all your stuff inside here. You can start clicking around if you like, but the project section down here is the last thing we're going to go over. This shows us what's in our project, the assets, and it's organized very nicely here. So scene is what we see here. The scene section, we see our scenes, basic scene, sample scene. You can file and open a new scene and save it in your scenes folder. Right click, create at the top, and you can create a new folder, new script. We'll get into that in the future. But that's just a little tour of Unity and the tutorial. If you hit play, you'll want to set up SteamVR or MetaQuest VR first before you hit the play button. If you want to try it out in VR, you can go ahead and hit play and it'll function and you can see it running. Now if you want to hit the stats button up here, it'll give you a little bit more information about your scene, and we'll get into this in the future. But that is a quick little breakdown. You can click over here and go through and read some documentation yourself, but that's the most of it. Go ahead and move things around, press play, go through documentation, and that's pretty much bringing the horse to the water, right? You can move things around. If you do want to add an object and move things around, you can click up at the top over here, a little plus, or you can right click in the scene or on the right here, and you can create an object. Now in this drop down, let's just create a sphere. Now we have a sphere. You see that little circle here. Oh, there we go. That was a light probe. So we have our sphere here, and we have the aspects of our sphere. We have a collider, which means that it's hard, but it won't move anywhere. It'll just stay there. If we want it to drop and bounce, we'll click add component and add a rigid body, and it'll bounce. Well, it doesn't have a bouncing material. We'll get into that later. This physics material properties is going to implement different real world physics to your 3D objects, and you can customize that and mess with these things to make a more detailed experience. There's jobs, people get jobs just based off physics in the VR world, and it's very high paying jobs, $100,000 to $200,000 a year. People who just focus on making physics for virtual reality games, depending on what company you work for. But that's what Ballers VR was, that's what their salary they were putting out. So go ahead, have some fun. You can see that some of these things have additional scripts called XR grab interactables. That's what allows a player to quite literally interact with an object. In most cases, it's a grab. So this is a grab interactable, where you can grab. Literally, when you hit a trigger, this template gives you everything, the scripts already written out, where you can just drag and drop. Shout out to all the Unity devs and people who have came before us and have made this so easy for us to do, because they had to make this and write all these scripts to make it easy just to drag and drop. And you can click on any object and you can add, so this I can add let's go ahead and add an XR interactable, grab interactable, and now this will be able to be grabbed if I hit the trigger on this object, and I can move it around. Okay, and you can go ahead and play that out and have some fun there. I'm going to leave you off with that. You can hit play, connect with SteamVR, and it'll be functional with SteamVR as soon as you launch. You can use Meta, but I suggest using SteamVR. We'll get into control systems and more detailed Meta-based SDKs and functionalities in the next tutorial. So hit the subscribe button. Check out Invictus Men of Iron. It's free on the MetaQuest Play Store. And until next time, peace.